Okay, so let me start with this. When I was 5, I wanted to be nothing more than a Disney character. I used to walk around the living room draped in old curtains, pretending I was the evil queen from Snow White. I mean, the evil queen just because she's more fabulous than Snow White, obviously. My heroines were Sleeping Beauty and Cinderella, and probably my most favorite Disney character of all times was Ariel, the Little Mermaid. Now, as I was 5, I think her character kind of spoke to me because she had this long, luscious hair and those big, sparkling eyes, but as I look to it now, her story might actually also relate a little bit to my own story, because she was a girl who needed to change her body in order to be herself, and I am a transsexual woman, which means that I was born biologically as a boy, but as you might see, that didn't exactly turn out the way it was supposed to. So, actually, this started when I was very young. My earliest memory probably is when my mom was driving me home from a birthday party of a girlfriend of mine, and I remember telling her that, you know, Mom, that pee-pee of mine, I'm gonna cut it off someday. Since then, gender has become sort of a mystery to me. I remember looking to the world and seeing all these people who fell so naturally into either one of two categories, you know, male or female. And I remember being so intrigued and feeling so astonished at how comfortable everybody always felt with their allotted place in the world. As for me, gender always seemed like a big insider joke that everybody else but me seemed to get. So on the topic of gender, let me ask you a couple of questions. What makes a person male or female? You know, is it just that one person has a penis and the other one has a vagina? Or is there something more to that? And I think in general, the answer would be yes, the body does matter in determining what gender you are. I think if I would do a little experiment with you guys where I would ask you to put your hand on the part of your body that determined if you were male or female, most of you guys would go ahead and put your hand in between your legs. But I think we can also look at other examples. For example, women who undergo breast augmentations. And say about that it would make them feel so much more feminine. Now, does that mean that, you know, women with bigger boobs are more feminine than women with smaller boobs? I don't think it does, but I think this shows us that there is also a realm of feeling involved when it comes to gender. I feel that we all have a voice inside of us that tells us whether we are male or female, no matter what. And me, I never really had that voice. I never really had something inside me that told me what I was or what I was supposed to be. So during my process of transitioning from a boy to a girl, I actually kept wondering about these questions of what the body mattered to my gender. And in the end, I found out that I actually wouldn't be able to say this about myself if I didn't actually experience it, if I didn't actually change my biology. So I underwent gender reassignment surgery, and that was 3 years ago. And as I woke up from my surgery, I mean, I was in a hell of a lot of pain, obviously, because my pee-pee had gone bye-bye. I was left with a heavily bruised and brutally tortured vagina. I will spare you guys the gory details, but imagine that it looked a little bit like 2 stone-cold raw hamburgers just slapped together and stuck to my body. But as I started my recovery, the bruising went down, and all of a sudden, my life seemed to pick up where it had left off and seemed to continue as normal. And in this period, I kept wondering to myself, you know, why don't I feel different? Why aren't the questions about gender magically answered? And then it hit me. I can cut off anything I want to from my body, but that doesn't mean that it's going to change anything inside myself. Now, as we look at Ariel, the Little Mermaid, and I'm sorry I keep using her as a reference point, but there we are. She threw her fishtail in the trash, and she grew a pair of beautiful, slender, pale legs, but it didn't actually change her. Inside, she still was the Little Mermaid that used to swim through the ocean. And now, of course, just like in Ariel's case, my surgery gave me a way to live my life the way I wanted it, because all of a sudden to the world, my body seemed to match the image that I presented of myself to the outside world. So to the world, I seemed figured out. But to myself, I wasn't figured out at all. I had no idea, and the questions that I had remained hovering in and out of my mind as it did before. But does that mean that I regret getting my gender reassignment surgery? No. The answer should be definitely no. If I had to make the decision again, I would in an instant. It might seem strange that in order to understand that there is no such thing as being a woman, I had to become a woman. But that way, my surgery became not a way of getting in on the big insider joke, but creating a little insider joke for myself, for me alone. And that was probably the point where I just gave up on trying to figure out gender and try to answer questions that I knew I couldn't answer. And I started focusing on what I did know about myself. And what I found out, kind of shocking actually, I found out that I was happy. I was so happy with who I was. So gender actually didn't really matter anymore to me. Whatever label you would put on me, male, female, or transgender, or whatever, I would always be myself. I'm actually kind of proud to stand here before you and be able to say that about myself, that despite everything, despite this entire process of trying to figure out gender, which started off with me as a little boy playing with Barbie dolls and progressed into a very heavy gender reassignment surgery, I can now stand here before you and say about myself that no matter what, I will always be myself. Thank you.